The morning air on Kepler's rest station carried the scent of exotic spices and metal polish. Jake Morrison walked through the busy marketplace, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The station was huge, bigger than 3 football fields put together. Alien traders from dozens of worlds filled the space, their voices creating a constant buzz of different languages. Jake kept his eyes moving, watching for trouble. He was a lieutenant in the Terran Defense Corps, and today, he had an important job. He was protecting a small group of humans who were here to talk business with alien governments. It should have been an easy day, but Jake knew that things could go wrong fast when different species mixed together. Behind him walked Lisa Parker, a young woman with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She wore the blue uniform of a communications specialist. Lisa had joined the Corps 6 months ago, fresh from a farming world called New Texas. She was quiet, polite, and very good at her job. She could speak 4 different alien languages and had a gift for making friends with people from other worlds. The marketplace was like a carnival. Blue-skinned Velnari sold glowing crystals from tall booths. Short, furry Grex merchants offered strange fruits that changed colors when touched. Metal beings called constructs traded in spare parts and tools. The air filled with dozens of different smells, some pleasant, others making Jake wrinkle his nose. Lisa stopped at a fruit stand run by a friendly Grex trader. The small alien, covered in golden fur, smiled with tiny sharp teeth. "Hello, young human lady," he said in broken English. "You try new fruit, yes? Very sweet, very good for humans." "Thank you, but I'm working right now," Lisa said with a smile. "Maybe later." Jake watched the crowd while Lisa talked. Most aliens were peaceful traders, but some groups caused problems. The Korthak Empire was the worst. They were big, strong, and believed they were better than everyone else. Korthak warriors stood over 7 feet tall, with green scales covering their muscular bodies. They had sharp claws and teeth, and they liked to push smaller beings around. As if Jake's thoughts had summoned them, a group of Korthak soldiers pushed through the crowd. They wore black armor with red symbols that marked their rank. Other traders quickly moved out of their way. Even the biggest aliens gave the Korthak plenty of space. The leader was Commander Vexthul, a massive warrior with scars covering his arms and face. He was known throughout the station for his bad temper and love of fighting. His yellow eyes looked around the marketplace like he owned everything in it. Jake touched his radio. "Control, this is Morrison, Korthak military group approaching sector 7. Keeping watch." "Copy that, Morrison. Keep distance and avoid contact," came the reply. But avoiding contact was about to become impossible. The Korthak group was walking directly toward Jake and Lisa. The crowd parted before them like water, leaving a clear path between the two groups. Jake stepped closer to Lisa. "We should move," he said quietly. Lisa nodded and started to walk away from the fruit stand. She thanked the Grex trader and turned to follow Jake. But she was a second too late. Commander Vexthul deliberately changed his path. Instead of walking past the humans, he aimed his massive shoulder directly at Lisa. The impact sent her stumbling sideways into the fruit stand. Golden fruit scattered across the floor, rolling in every direction. The Grex trader cried out in distress. "My fruits, my beautiful fruits!" Lisa caught herself against the stand and turned around. Her cheek was red where Vexthul's armor had scraped against her skin. But she wasn't angry. She was polite, just like she had been taught. "Excuse me," Lisa said in perfect Korthak language. "I think that was an accident, but could you please be more careful? You knocked over this trader's goods." The marketplace went quiet. Conversation stopped. Even the background hum of the station's machinery seemed to fade. Every alien in the area turned to watch what would happen next. Vexthul stopped walking. He turned around slowly, his yellow eyes focusing on Lisa like a snake looking at a mouse. His mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Did this tiny meat speak to me?" Vexthul asked his soldiers in the Korthak language. They laughed, deep rumbling sounds that made the smaller aliens step back even further. Jake reached for his weapon, But Vexthul was faster. The Korthak commander spun around and backhanded Lisa across the face with his massive clawed hand. The sound of the impact echoed through the marketplace like a gunshot. Every alien watching expected to see the small human female fly across the marketplace. They expected broken bones, blood, maybe even death. Humans were known to be weak and fragile. A full-strength blow from a Korthak warrior should have killed her instantly. But Lisa barely moved. The force of the blow turned her head to the side, but her feet stayed planted on the ground. She blinked once, touched her cheek where new blood was flowing, and then looked back at Vexthul with calm eyes. "That was rude," she said. Then, without any warning or preparation, Lisa drew back her right fist and punched Vexthul in the stomach. It wasn't a big punch. It wasn't fancy or dramatic. Lisa just made a fist and drove it forward into the Korthak's armored midsection, right below his chest plate. To her, it felt like tapping someone on the shoulder. Commander Vexthul doubled over like he had been, hit by a cargo truck. The massive warrior's eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no sound came out except a strangled wheeze. His knees buckled, and he crashed to the floor of the marketplace, curling up in a ball and gasping for air like a fish out of water. The silence that followed was complete and total. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody even seemed to breathe. Lisa looked down at the writhing Korthak commander with confusion. "Oh no," she said. "Are you okay? I didn't hit you that hard." Jake stared at his communications specialist like he had never seen her before. Around them, dozens of aliens were doing the same thing. Some had their mouths hanging open. Others were backing away slowly, as if Lisa might attack them next. The other Korthak soldiers looked at their fallen commander, then at Lisa, then back at their commander. One of them, a younger warrior with fewer scars, reached for his weapon. "Wouldn't do that," Jake said, his hand moving to his own gun. But Lisa wasn't paying attention to the weapons. She was kneeling down next to Vexthul, looking worried. "I'm really sorry," she said in Korthak. "I grew up doing farm work. Maybe I'm stronger than I thought. Do you need a doctor?" Vexthul tried to answer, but he could only make small gasping sounds. His face had turned a darker shade of green, and sweat was pouring down his scales. The Grex fruit trader, who had been cowering behind his stand, slowly stood up. He looked at Lisa with something like wonder in his large eyes. You knocked down a Korthak warrior," he whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt him," Lisa said. She stood up and brushed dust off her uniform. "It was just reflex. He hit me, so I hit him back. That's what my dad taught me to do with bullies." Around the marketplace, the word was already spreading. Aliens were pulling out communication devices, talking rapidly in dozens of languages. The news was flying through the station faster than light. A human female had defeated a Korthak commander with a single punch, and she didn't even seem to realize what she had done. News traveled fast on Kepler's rest station. Within minutes, every alien trader, diplomat, and visitor knew about the impossible thing that had happened in the marketplace. A human female, barely 5.5 feet tall, had knocked down Commander Vexthul with a single punch. The story grew bigger with each telling. Dr. Kale Zorn was working in the medical bay when his emergency alarm went off. The tall, thin Velnari doctor had blue skin and large black eyes that helped him see in low light. He had been the station's chief medical officer for 12 years and had treated injuries from dozens of different species. But he had never seen anything like what his medical scanners were showing him now. 2 Korthak soldiers carried their commander into the medical bay. Vexthul was conscious but still having trouble breathing. His green skin looked pale and he kept holding his stomach with both hands. "What happened to him?" Dr. Zorn asked as he prepared his scanning equipment. "A human female attacked him," one of the soldiers said. His voice was full of shame. "She used some kind of weapon or enhancement device." Dr. Zorn ran his scanner over Vexthul's body. The results made him check his equipment twice. According to the readings, the Korthak commander had internal bruising consistent with being hit by a heavy vehicle or falling from a great height. 3 of his ribs were cracked and his internal organs showed signs of severe trauma. "This is impossible," Dr. Zorn muttered. "What kind of weapon was used?" "No weapon. Vexthul wheezed. Just her hand. Small human hand. The doctor's large eyes grew even larger. He had studied human physiology when the species first joined the galactic community 5 years ago. According to all the data, humans were physically weak. They had no natural armor, no claws, no enhanced strength. They were supposed to be one of the most fragile species in known space. "I need to examine this human," Dr. Zorn said, "for research purposes." Meanwhile, in the marketplace, Jake Morrison was trying to handle the growing crowd. Aliens from every corner of the station were coming to look at the spot where Lisa had punched Vexthul. Some wanted to see the human who had done the impossible. Others wanted to examine the floor where the mighty Korthak warrior had fallen. Lisa stood in the center of it all, looking confused and embarrassed. She kept apologizing to anyone who would listen. "I really didn't mean to hurt him so badly," she said to a group of Grex traders. "Back home, that was just a normal punch. My little brother hits harder than that." The Grex traders exchanged worried looks. If this was a normal punch for a human, what could they do when they were really trying to fight? A reporter from the Galactic News Network pushed through the crowd. She was a tall, elegant being from the Ethereal Collective with silver skin that seemed to glow under the station's lights. Her name was Nistara, and she was known for asking tough questions. "Miss Parker," she said, holding up a recording device, "can you tell our viewers exactly what happened here?" Lisa looked at the camera nervously. "Well, this big guy hit me, and I hit him back. It's not really a story. My dad always told me to stand up to bullies." "But you knocked down a Korthak warrior with one punch," Nistara pressed. "Korthak are known throughout the galaxy for their physical strength. Are you some kind of enhanced soldier?" "Enhanced?" Lisa laughed. "No, I'm just a communications specialist. I grew up on a farm. We had to move heavy equipment and wrestle with livestock. I guess that kept me in shape." The reporter's silver skin flickered with disbelief. "You're saying this is normal human strength?" "Maybe a little above average," Lisa admitted. "I did play sports in school, but honestly, I thought I was being gentle. I didn't want to really hurt him." The interview was broadcast live across the galaxy. In government buildings, military headquarters, and academic institutions, alien leaders watched in growing concern. If this young human was telling the truth, then everything they knew about human capabilities was wrong. On the Korthak homeworld, General Krextar watched the broadcast with his staff. The massive warrior had scars covering half his face from a lifetime of battles. He had fought humans before, during small border conflicts, but he had always assumed their victories came from superior technology and tactics. "This must be some kind of trick," he growled. "Humans are weak. We have captured their soldiers. We have studied their physiology." "Perhaps," said his intelligence officer, a smaller Korthak with keen eyes. "But what if we only captured their weak ones? What if their real warriors have been hiding their true strength?" The general's yellow eyes narrowed. "Find out everything. You can about human physical capabilities. I want to know if we have been underestimating our enemies." Back on the station, Dr. Zorn finally convinced Lisa to come to the medical bay for a checkup. He wanted to make sure she wasn't injured from her fight with Vexthul, but his real goal was to study her. "This won't hurt," he promised as he activated his scanners. "I just want to make sure you're okay." Lisa sat on the examination table, swinging her legs like a child. "I feel fine. A little embarrassed, maybe. I didn't know aliens were so fragile." The scanner results appeared on Dr. Zorn's screen, and he had to sit down in shock. Lisa's bone density was 3 times higher than what his medical text said was normal for humans. Her muscle fibers were packed so tightly that they seemed almost crystalline in structure. Her reaction time was faster than most predator species. "This is incredible," he whispered. "According to these readings, you should be able to lift nearly 1,000 pounds. "That sounds about right," Lisa said casually. "Maybe a little less on a bad day." "Why? Is that weird for humans?" Dr. Zorn's head was spinning. "The medical data we have on humans says your species can only lift about 200 pounds at most." Lisa laughed. "That's ridiculous. My grandmother could lift more than that and she was 80 years old. Who gave you that information? Human diplomats provided it when your species first made contact, Dr. Zorn said slowly. They said it was average human capability. Oh, Lisa said, understanding dawning in her eyes. They probably gave you the numbers for people who don't do physical work, like office workers or politicians. Those folks are pretty weak compared to normal people. The doctor stared at her. You're saying the humans who first contacted us were below average in strength? Way below average, Lisa confirmed. Most of them had probably never done a hard day's work in their lives. If you want to know what regular humans can do, you should test farmers, construction workers, or athletes. Dr. Zorn's mind raced with the implications. If the original human contact team had been physically weak by their own species' standards, then the galactic community had been operating under completely false assumptions for 5 years. He activated his communication system and sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council. The message was simple but terrifying. Request immediate reassessment of human physical capabilities. Current data appears to be severely inaccurate. Meanwhile, word of the incident continued to spread. Military commanders across the galaxy were pulling up old battle reports looking for clues they might have missed. Politicians were reconsidering treaties and trade agreements. Scientists were questioning everything they thought they knew about evolutionary biology. And Lisa Parker, the young woman who had started it all, was just hoping she could finish her shift and get some dinner. She had no idea that her simple response to a bully was about to change how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called just 6 hours after Dr. Zorn sent his message. Representatives from 43 different species gathered in the Great Chamber on the neutral world of Harmony Prime. The massive circular room buzzed with worried conversations in dozens of languages. Counselor Prime Thisara of the Ethereal Collective called for order. Her silver form glowed brighter as she spoke, a sign of her agitation. We are here to discuss a disturbing incident on Kepler's rest station. A human female has apparently injured a Korthak warrior with her bare hands. General Vorth of the Hegemony Alliance, a massive bear-like creature covered in dark fur, slammed his clawed hand on his desk. This is impossible. We have fought humans in 3 border wars. They are weak creatures who rely on technology and numbers. Perhaps that is what they wanted us to think, said Ambassador Quillen of the Merchant Guilds. The insect-like being's multiple eyes gleamed with worry. What if they have been hiding their true capabilities? Thisara activated the main display screen. The recording of Lisa's interview with the news reporter appeared, showing the young human calmly explaining that her punch was nothing special. If this female is telling the truth, Thisara said, then our entire understanding of human physiology is wrong. We need answers before panic spreads across the galaxy. Captain Roy Henderson was called to testify 3 days later. The veteran diplomat was a stocky man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been representing humanity in galactic affairs for 8 years, and he knew this meeting could change everything. Captain Henderson, Thisara began, we need you to explain how a human communications specialist could defeat a Korthak warrior in combat. Roy looked around the chamber at the worried alien faces. He had known this day would come eventually. Counselor Prime, Lisa Parker is not a warrior. She's a normal young woman from a farming world. Normal? General Vorth growled. Are you saying all humans possess this level of physical strength? Roy rubbed his forehead. This was going to be difficult to explain. Most humans are stronger than Lisa, actually. She's pretty average for her age group. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several aliens began talking at once, their translators struggling to keep up with the rapid conversations. Order, Thisara called out. Captain Henderson, surely you exaggerate. Our medical data on humans shows much lower physical capabilities. That data came from our first diplomatic team, Roy explained. Those folks were politicians, scientists, and bureaucrats. They spent their lives in offices not doing physical work. They were honestly the weakest humans we could have sent. Ambassador Quillen's antennae twitched nervously. Why would you send your weakest representatives? Because we thought you might be scared if you saw what our strong people could do, Roy admitted. We were trying to appear non-threatening. We wanted to be accepted into the galactic community. Dr. Zorn, who had been invited to present his findings, stepped forward. His blue skin had turned pale with worry. I have conducted additional tests on 3 more humans currently on Kepler's rest station. The results are disturbing. He activated his own display, showing scan results and physical measurements. A human maintenance worker named Pete Johnson regularly lifts equipment that weighs over 1,200 pounds. He does this as part of his normal job, 8 hours a day. Our strongest species require mechanical assistance to move such weights. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Furthermore, Dr. Zorn continued, I tested a human civilian contractor named Amy Chen. She arm wrestled with Lieutenant Korax of the Grex Federation Security Force. Korax is trained in combat and is considered exceptionally strong for his species. The human female defeated him easily while barely trying. General Vorth's fur was standing on end. What about their reaction times, their endurance? Human reflexes are faster than most predator species, Dr. Zorn reported. Their endurance is extraordinary. They can continue physical activity for hours without rest. And perhaps most frightening of all, they seem to have no awareness of how powerful they are compared to other species. Roy nodded sadly. That's the real problem. Most humans genuinely believe they're weak. They compare themselves to their own species, not to aliens. Lisa Parker was probably holding back when she hit that Korthak commander. The silence that followed was broken by a small voice from the back of the chamber. Counselor Pix of the Tiny. Folk, a mouse-like being barely 2 feet tall, stood up on his chair. Captain Henderson, Pix squeaked. What happens when humans get angry, really angry? Roy's expression grew grim. You don't want to find out. When humans feel threatened or need to protect someone they care about, they can do things that surprise them, even us. Tysara's glow dimmed as she processed this information. Captain, are you telling us that humans have been deliberately deceiving the galactic community about their capabilities? Not deceiving, Roy corrected. We just didn't correct your assumptions. When your medical teams examined our diplomats and concluded that humans were physically weak, we didn't argue. It seemed safer that way. Safer for whom? General Vorth demanded. For everyone, Roy said quietly. General, what would you have done 5 years ago if our first contact team had consisted of human soldiers, construction workers, and athletes instead of diplomats and scientists? The bear-like alien considered this. If he had encountered humans who could tear apart his warriors with their bare hands, he would have recommended immediate military action to eliminate the threat. Dr. Zorn raised another concern. Captain Henderson, what about human children? Are they also stronger than our adults? Roy winced. Human teenagers are usually stronger than most adult aliens, yes. Our actual children are probably about equal to your average adult in physical capability. Ambassador Quillen made a chittering sound of distress. We have trade agreements that allow human families to visit our worlds. Are you saying their offspring could accidentally injure our citizens? It's possible, Roy admitted. But humans are raised from birth to be careful around fragile things. They learn to control their strength very early. Most human parents teach their children to be gentle with pets, small objects, and anything that might break easily. Including other species, Dr. Zorn said with understanding. That's why humans always seem so careful and polite in their interactions with aliens. They're treating us like we might break. The truth hit the chamber like a physical blow. Every alien representative realized that every human they had ever met had been consciously holding back their strength to avoid hurting them. Counselor Prime Tysara called for a recess. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, they whispered among themselves in worried tones. Some were already planning to increase security around human populations on their worlds. Others were wondering if they should ban humans entirely. But the smartest among them were beginning to understand that humanity had just revealed something incredible. For 5 years, a species powerful enough to dominate the galaxy had chosen instead to be polite, peaceful members of the galactic community. The King, Question now was whether that would continue to be the case. Roy Henderson remained in his seat, watching the aliens leave. He activated his communication device and sent a message back to Earth. The secret is out. Recommend we start preparing for some very difficult conversations. On Kepler's rest station, Lisa Parker was finishing her shift, still completely unaware that her simple punch had started a galaxy-wide crisis. She was looking forward to calling her family back home and telling them about her interesting day at work. The testing program began 1 week after the Galactic Council meeting. Dr. Zorn had received permission to conduct a full study of human physical capabilities with volunteers from across the galaxy. What he discovered changed everything the one scientific community thought they knew about evolution and biology. The first volunteer was Danny Brooks, a cargo loader from the human trade ship Northern Star. Danny was 28 years old, average height, and considered himself pretty normal. He worked loading and unloading heavy containers at various spaceports. Just do what you normally do at work, Dr. Zorn instructed, setting up his recording equipment in the station's cargo bay. Danny shrugged and walked over to a container marked with alien symbols. The container was supposed to weigh 800 pounds and normally required 2 Grex workers using lifting equipment to move it. Danny grabbed it with both hands and lifted it over his head like it was a suitcase. "Where do you want this?" he asked casually. Dr. Zorn's hands were shaking as he checked his instruments. How often do you lift things like this?" "Every day," Danny replied, still holding the massive container above his head without any sign of strain. "This is actually pretty light. The really heavy ones weigh about 1,500 pounds. Those take some effort." The second volunteer was Maria Santos, a construction worker who had been helping build new sections of the station. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with arms that looked thin compared to most alien species. "I hear you want to see what humans can do," she said with a friendly smile. "What would you like me to demonstrate?" Dr. Zorn pointed to a steel beam that was part of the station's framework. According to his calculations, it would take a hydraulic press to bend that beam. Could you try to bend that?" Maria examined the beam carefully. "Sure, but I might break it. Is that okay?" Before Dr. Zorn could answer, Maria grabbed the beam with both hands and twisted it into a pretzel shape. The metal groaned and snapped, but she made it look effortless. "Sorry," she said, looking at the broken beam. "I should have been more careful. Back home, I usually work with stronger materials." The third volunteer was Bobby Chen, Amy's younger brother. He was 16 years old and still growing. His sister had told him about the tests and suggested he participate. "I'm not as strong as my sister yet," Bobby explained to Dr. Zorn. "But I can show you some stuff." Dr. Zorn had prepared a series of strength tests using equipment designed for the strongest alien species. The first test measured grip strength. The machine was calibrated for Korthak warriors who had some of the strongest grips in the galaxy. Bobby grabbed the testing device and squeezed. The machine immediately sparked and smoking, its sensors overloaded. "Oops," Bobby said, looking embarrassed. "Did I break it?" Dr. Zorn stared at the ruined equipment. The machine was rated for 3,000 pounds of pressure. "How much force did you use?" "Not much," Bobby replied honestly. "Maybe half strength?" I didn't want to break anything. Word of the test results spread quickly through the scientific community. On the academic world of New Athens, Professor Elena Vasquez was reviewing the data in her xenobiology laboratory. As one of the galaxy's leading experts on alien physiology, she had been asked to verify Dr. Zorn's findings. "This is impossible," she muttered, checking the numbers for the 5th time. "According to these measurements, the average human teenager is stronger than our best combat robots." Her research assistant, a nervous Velnari named Kex, looked up from his own calculations. "Professor, what if the impossible is actually true? What if humans really are this strong?" Elena sat back in her chair, considering the implications. "If these numbers are correct, then humans didn't evolve on a normal world. They must have come from somewhere with extreme conditions, high gravity, dangerous predators, constant environmental threats." She activated her computer and began searching through the human databases that had been shared with the galactic community. Most of the information was about human culture, art, and politics. Very little had been shared about their home world, of Earth. What she found made her blood run cold. Earth had gravity that was 50% higher than most inhabited worlds. The planet was covered with massive predators that could kill most galactic species with ease. The weather included storms powerful enough to destroy cities. The very air contained oxygen levels that would be toxic to many aliens. "Kex," Elena said slowly, "look at this data on human evolution. They didn't just survive on a death world. They became the apex predator of a death world." Meanwhile, on the military world of Fortress Prime, General Vorth was holding an emergency meeting with his top commanders. The bear-like warrior had spent the past week reviewing every battle report involving human forces. "We have been fighting children," he announced to the shocked room. "Every human soldier we have encountered has been holding back their true strength." Colonel Nex, his second-in-command, studied the reports on his tablet. "Sir, if these test results are accurate, a single human soldier could potentially defeat an entire squad of our warriors in hand-to-hand combat." "Not potentially," General Vorth corrected grimly. "Certainly. Look at this battle report from the Kepler incident 3 years ago. A human patrol of 12 soldiers defeated 60 of our best warriors. We assumed they had superior weapons and tactics. What if they were just being gentle?" Colonel Nex asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a death sentence. If humans had been holding back in every military engagement, then the entire balance of galactic power was built on a lie. Back on Kepler's rest station, the testing continued with volunteers arriving from across human space. Each new test confirmed what Dr. Zorn was beginning to understand. Humans were not just stronger than other species, they were stronger by orders of magnitude. The most shocking discovery came when they tested Rachel Green, a 60-year-old grandmother, who worked as a librarian on a peaceful human colony. She looked frail by human standards, with gray hair and a gentle manner. "I'm not sure why you want to test me," she said apologetically. "I'm just an old lady who reads books all day." But when Dr. Zorn asked her to demonstrate her strength, Rachel casually lifted a half-ton piece of equipment with one hand, while continuing to chat about her grandchildren. "My grandson is on the wrestling team at his school," she said, holding the massive weight like it was a book. "He's gotten so strong. Last week he accidentally broke 3 training robots during practice." Dr. Zorn realized with growing horror that even elderly humans were physically superior to the strongest warriors of most species. The final test subject was perhaps the most disturbing. Kevin Murphy was a human accountant who had never done physical labor in his life. He was pale, soft, and spent his days working with numbers and computers. By human standards, he was considered very weak. Kevin struggled to lift the lightest weight in Dr. Zorn's collection, a mere 200 pounds. He was embarrassed by his poor performance. "I'm sorry," Kevin panted after finally managing to lift the weight. "I know I'm pathetic compared to real humans. I should exercise more." Dr. Zorn stared at him in disbelief. Kevin Murphy, the weakest human he had tested, was still stronger than 80% of all known galactic species. As the test results were compiled and distributed to governments across the galaxy, one fact became impossible to ignore. Humanity had been hiding in plain sight. They were apex predators pretending to be sheep, and they had been doing it so convincingly that no one had suspected the truth. The question that kept every alien leader awake at night was simple. What would happen if humans decided to stop pretending? The Korthak Empire made the first move 6 weeks after the test results were published. General Krextar had convinced his war council that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. If they were truly as strong as the reports claimed, they needed to be eliminated before they became a threat. The target was New Haven, a small human mining colony on the edge of known space. It had only 3,000 residents, mostly families of miners and support workers. The colony had no military defenses and no weapons stronger than basic mining equipment. Krextar personally led a force of 500 elite Korthak warriors in 12 attack ships. They expected an easy victory against helpless civilians. The E. Plan was simple: destroy the colony, blame it on space pirates, and test whether humans were really as powerful as everyone feared. Tom Harrison was working the night shift at Mine 7 when the attack began. He was a big man, even by human standards, with arms like tree trunks from 20 years of operating heavy machinery. When the alarm siren started wailing, he thought it was just another equipment malfunction. Then the explosions started. Tom ran outside and saw alien ships firing energy weapons at the colony's buildings. People were running and screaming as green laser beams cut through the air. This was no accident or malfunction. New Haven was under attack. The first Korthak shuttle landed near the mine entrance. 20 armored warriors poured out, their weapons ready to kill defenseless human civilians. They had trained for this mission extensively, preparing to face the weak, fragile creatures they expected to find. Tom Harrison picked up his mining drill, a tool designed to cut through solid rock. It weighed 60 pounds and was meant to be operated with mechanical assistance. Tom held it in one hand like a pistol. "Hey!" he shouted at the advancing Korthak soldiers. "What do you think you're doing?" The lead warrior raised his energy rifle. "Surrender, human, and your death will be quick." Tom looked at the weapon pointed at him, then at the burning buildings where his friends and neighbors lived. His expression hardened. "I don't think so," he said. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. Tom charged the Korthak soldiers, moving faster than they thought possible. The first warrior fired his energy rifle, but Tom was already diving to the side. The mining drill in his hand roared to life, its diamond-tipped bit spinning at maximum speed. He crashed into the line of soldiers like a wrecking ball. The mining drill went through their armor like it was made of paper. Korthak warriors, each one trained from birth for combat, fell before a human miner who was just trying to protect his home. In less than 30 seconds, all 20 soldiers were down. Across the colony, similar scenes were playing out. Martha Cooper, a grandmother who ran the local bakery, fought off 5 Korthak warriors using a mixing bowl and a rolling pin. The bowl was made of reinforced steel for commercial baking, and in Martha's hands it became a devastating weapon. The school teacher Linda Walsh used a metal desk to shield a group of children from energy weapons fire. When the Korthak soldiers came through the door, she threw the desk at them. All 4 warriors were crushed instantly. The colony's maintenance chief, Pete Johnson, defended the power station using tools from his workshop. A simple wrench became a deadly projectile when thrown by human strength. A crowbar bent Korthak rifles in half. General Krextar watched the battle from his command ship with growing horror. His elite warriors, the best soldiers the Korthak Empire had ever produced, were being defeated by human civilians using hand tools and kitchen equipment. "Impossible," he muttered, watching his tactical display. Red dots representing his forces were disappearing faster than he could count. "Sir?" his communications officer said nervously. "We're receiving a transmission from the colony." "Put it through," Krextar ordered. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to Mayor Susan Davis, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She looked tired, but not afraid. "This is Mayor Davis of New Haven Colony," she said calmly. "I'm calling to inform you that your attack has failed. We have captured 47 of your soldiers and destroyed 6 of your landing shuttles. The rest of your forces have retreated to defensible positions, but they're surrounded." Krextar's jaw dropped. "You're lying. My warriors are the finest in the galaxy." "I'm sure they're very good soldiers," Mayor Davis replied politely. "But they're fighting people who are defending their families. That makes a difference." She paused, then continued in the same calm tone. "I'm going to offer you a choice, General. You can withdraw your forces immediately, or my people will continue defending themselves. I should warn you, though, some of our miners are getting pretty angry about the damage to their homes." As if to emphasize her point, an explosion lit up the night sky as another Korthak shuttle was destroyed. On the tactical display, Krextar could see his forces being systematically eliminated by defenders who weren't even using military equipment. "This is impossible," he said again. "Humans are supposed to be weak." Mayor Davis smiled sadly. "General, I think someone gave you some very bad information. The news of the New Haven defense spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications could carry it. Within hours, every government, military force, and news organization knew that human civilians had defeated an elite Korthak assault force using mining equipment and kitchen utensils. The political fallout was immediate and severe. On the ethereal homeworld, Counselor Prime Thysera called another emergency session. Her silver skin was dim with worry as she addressed the gathered representatives. The attack on New Haven has proven beyond doubt that humans possess military capabilities we never imagined, she announced. We must reconsider humanity's status in the galactic community. General Vorth stood up slowly. The massive bear-like warrior looked older and more tired than ever before. Counselor Prime, I formally recommend that all hostile actions against human settlements be suspended immediately. After reviewing the battle reports from New Haven, I can confirm that humans are the most individually powerful species we have ever encountered. Ambassador Quillen chittered nervously. What does this mean for our existing treaties and trade agreements? Captain Roy Henderson, who had been called to attend the session, stood to address the chamber. It means the same thing it has always meant. Humanity wants to be a peaceful member of the galactic community. We're not interested in conquest or domination. But you could dominate us if you wanted to, Thysera said quietly. Roy nodded honestly. Yes, we probably could, but we don't want to. We never have. Why not? Asked Counselor Pix of the tiny folk. Most species would use such power to control others. Roy thought about the question carefully before answering. Because we know what it's like to be afraid. Humans spent most of our history being afraid of bigger, stronger predators. We know how it feels to be helpless. We don't want to make other people feel that way. The chamber fell silent as the aliens processed this answer. So what happens now? General Vorth asked. Now we do what we've always done, Roy replied. We work together, trade with each other, and try to make the galaxy a better place for everyone. The only difference is that now you know the truth about human capabilities. Dr. Zorn, who had been quietly taking notes throughout the session, raised his hand. Captain Henderson, what about humans like Lisa Parker? Will they continue to hold back their strength around other species? Roy smiled. Dr. Zorn, Lisa still doesn't know that her punch started this whole crisis. She thinks she just had a minor scuffle with a rude alien. Most humans will continue to be careful around other species because that's just how we were raised. As the session ended and the representatives filed out, one thing was clear. The galaxy had fundamentally changed. Humanity was no longer seen as a minor species to be tolerated or ignored. They were now recognized as the most powerful individual fighters in known space. But perhaps most remarkably, they remained exactly what they had always been. Polite, peaceful neighbors who just wanted to get along with everyone else. On Kepler's rest station, Lisa Parker finished her shift and headed to the commissary for dinner. She still had no idea that her simple response to a bully had reshaped galactic politics forever. She was more interested in the daily special and whether they had her favorite dessert. Some things, thankfully, never change.